Stadium in Tempe, Arizona, site of today's NFC East Division battle between the Dallas Cowboys and the Phoenix Cardinals. As you take a look at the division standings, these two teams share in common losing records, but they also share very positive attitudes. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Brown along with Ken Stabler and Snake. Now, Dallas, to hear them tell it, they say they've had a positive attitude all season long, but we know that's a fact now after their first victory over arch rival Washington last week. And Dallas now claims their rebuilding program has officially begun.
Jimmy Johnson says his team's getting better. I think evidence of that is last week's win against Washington. The Redskins was the first team that they prepared twice for, and they come away with a win. Important to get Aikman after missing 5 weeks with an injury. Important to get him back comfortable with the new personnel that's now playing.
Now, Phoenix's injuries problems have been well documented, perhaps the most injury-plagued team in all the National Football League, but the fact that they're still in the playoff hunt is a real tribute to their head coach.
I think he's done a wonderful coaching job, JB. What he's done is he's not let the team use injuries as a crutch. To put it in his words, we think that we can beat anybody by Friday.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys have won the coin toss and have elected to receive. Al Del Greco, having a whale of a year, will be kicking off for the Phoenix Cardinals. And back to receive for the Cowboys, number 87, Derek Shepard, and James Dixon. 86 degrees at game time, about 10 degrees hotter than that on the field. And this is Shepard from his own end zone. And Derek Shepard, a 31-yard return across the 30. And Troy Aikman, after having missed 5 weeks of the season, back in action for the Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson named him the starter. And the offensive front, Mark Tuinei, Nate Newton, Tom Rafferty, Crawford Kerr, Kevin Gogan, and Steve Folsom. Backs and receivers, Paul Palmer having a whale of a 3-game season thus far. Darrell Johnston, Kelvin Martin, Derek Shepard, James Dixon, and Bernard Ford in on obvious passing situations. 1st and 10 for the Cowboys. Ball marked at their own 30. And Aikman hands off to Palmer. And Palmer, a 2-yard gain to the left. And the defense that Paul Palmer will be running into, Freddie Joe Nunn, Rod Sadler, Gary Hadd, in for the injured David Galloway, and Carl Wilson. Linebacking core, Anthony Bell, Eric Hill, the rookie, doing a great job, and Ken Harvey, the speed on the outside. And a secondary, Mack, Carter, Lonnie Young, Tim McDonald, Jay Taylor, and Michael Zordich, the nickel and dime back. 2nd and 9. Aikman back for his first pass in 5 weeks, going up top, looking for Shepard, and overthrows him. There is a flag on a play, so Troy Aikman with the bomb, trying to open up early, Snake.
Yeah, it's important for Troy Aikman to get back and get involved with the new personnel, JB. There's an entirely different set of receivers, some different offensive linemen than he was playing with prior to his injury. So it's important to get him back and get him comfortable with the new personnel.
Holding, 55 defense, 1st down.
And that's against Anthony Bell, the 4th-year player out of Michigan State. And we saw Aikman on his first pass going deep, and as a matter of fact, the Cowboys and Aikman specifically told us to look for something like that because of the way the corners play.
Yeah, the corners have a tendency to sit at about 12 or 15 yards looking for in and out routes. They're going to try to run by them.
1st down for the Cowboys. Ball marked at the 37. Palmer out of the eye with room. Gets to the 1st down marker. To about the 48-yard line, an 11-yard run by Paul Palmer, stopped by Lonnie Young.
Well, you know what he's done is he's come in here and he's given them somewhat of a running game, JB. He came in there putting the ball in his hands. They're going to let him carry the ball more than normal. They're going to use him, feature him today, and Paul Palmer has come in and contributed to this team immediately.
Pint-sized running back, Snake, at 5'9", 181, but he says he likes to run off tackle.
Good quickness inside, gets behind those big offensive linemen, gets lost in there.
Derek Shepard to the near side on 1st and 10 for the Cowboys. Ball at the 48. Play action. Up top. Incomplete. The man near the ball was actually Cedric Mack, the left corner for the Cardinals. The intended receiver was Derek Shepard. And again, some of that confusion with the receivers.
Well, here's the first thing you have to do is you got to get in the quarterback's face, you know, and I think it's a real tribute to Gene Stallings that he's still getting pass rush out of a banged-up defensive unit. There you see Sadler putting the heat on Aikman.
Gene Stallings refuses to let injuries be an excuse, as Ken Stabler mentioned at the open. His team has been playing well. 2nd and 10 from the 48. Complete to Johnston. And Johnston near the 45. A gain of 7 will bring up a 3rd and 3. Tim McDonald on the stop. Aikman was chomping at the bit, said he really wanted to get back into action. Actually thought he was going to be ready last week to play.
Yeah, important. Like I said, it's important for him, too, because prior to his injury, they had a completely different set of receivers, different backs. Paul Palmer's now, and they're doing different things. Talked to David Schuler right before the kickoff. They're using more wide receivers. They've gone to a 3 wide receiver set now.
3 wide receivers. Dixon to the near side on 3rd and 3. Palmer. Grabbed in the backfield by Harvey. Loss of 3 on the play. So you got to look at the speed of Ken Harvey, and Eric Hill, the middle linebacker, said that his outside linebackers are smiling because they're the guys who get to do the glory kinds of things.
Guys that get to knock the quarterback around a little bit. Harvey has been the best pass rusher on the linebacking core for the Cardinals.
Mike Saxon in the punt for the Cowboys. Back for the Cardinals, Darrell Usher. He's on the developmental squad the last 2 weeks. Last team, San Diego Chargers. Saxon. Gets a high one and a good one, and the special teams do the job down in at the 2. A 4.7 hang time on that punt of 40 yards. So a well-placed punt by Mike Saxon. And the Cardinals will start deep in their own territory. Gary Hogeboom at the helm this week again for the Cardinals. You see his numbers on the season thus far. The offensive line. Rookie left side of the line with Joe Wolf and Mike Zandowski. Keep an eye there. Kennard, Lance Smith, and Tootie Robbins. Backs and receivers. Jay Novacek will be in. And the Cardinals with Earl Farrell carrying up to the 10-yard line, a gain of 3 on the play. Cowboys defense really has been a constant for him through this tough year. Ed Tujal Jones, 201st start. Dean Hamill, Willie Broughton, Jim Jeffcoat. Linebacking core, Del Rio, Lockhart, Norton, Jesse Solomon, and David Howard alternate quarters. And the secondary. 2nd and 7 for the Cardinals. Play action. Hogeboom decides to run. Pushed out of bounds at the 15-yard line, a gain of 5. And we'd like to welcome those of you who are watching the Washington-Philadelphia contest. Washington victorious over Philadelphia 10-3. Washington improves their record to 5-5. Philadelphia drops to 6-4. First quarter action here in Phoenix. Make that Tempe more specifically. James Brown along with Ken Stabler just underway. No score in this contest. And I guess, Snake, whether it's Tempe or Phoenix, it's still hot. 3rd and 2 for Phoenix. Hogeboom threw behind the intended receiver, Robert Awalt. And Snake, that's something that the coaching staff was working on consciously this week, is to get Hogeboom to involve Awalt, the tight end, more.
Yeah, Awalt's been vocal about that situation, too. He's wanted to touch the ball more, and I think that makes an awful lot of sense. When you get Roy Green, who's injured, J.T. Smith goes down with an injury, and you've got a good receiver like Robert Awalt, you need to get him involved in the game.
Rich Camarillo will come on to punt for the Cardinals. And Derek Shepard is back to receive for the Dallas Cowboys. Camarillo. And hit right at the 39-yard line. Great coverage by the special teams of Phoenix. Give the credit to Don Holmes. 46-yard punt, -1 on the return.
Well, here you see the hit right here. That'll make you sleep on your side of the bed, enough of those during the course of the day.
Great hit applied by Don Holmes, who, of course, plays at the wide receiver spot. But one way to nail a spot down on a team is to play well on special teams.
Special teams is the best way for a young player, rookie players, free agent players that come into a situation. Best way to make a ball club, special teams.
10:43 remaining in the first, no score. Dallas, 1st and 10, ball at its own 38. In and out of the hands, the intended receiver that time was Bernard Ford, a first-year player from Central Florida, covered by Cedric Mack.
The corner situation with the Phoenix Cardinals has been maligned somewhat. They've given up some big plays. Of course, in defense of those guys, they really haven't had the pass rush that they've wanted out of their front people. And defense all starts with putting pressure on the quarterback. Really makes a defensive back's job much easier if you can get some heat on the quarterback.
Except the DBs aren't out on an island enough as it is. 2nd and 10. Palmer. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Smothered by Phoenix. Led by Anthony Bell. A loss of 1 on the play.
Jimmy Johnson thinks his team is getting a lot better, JB. I talked to him right prior to the kickoff, and he's really happy to get Aikman back and get him involved with all the new personnel. Says his team is making strides. Of course, they would like to have more wins, but he says they're improving. They're still learning about personnel, tendencies that they have, evaluating other ball clubs. It's a learning process for the entire organization.
Has been on record as saying, while of course he would like to have more victories, he's looking and thinking long term. 3rd and 11 for the Cowboys. 3 wide receivers. Kelvin Martin in motion. Aikman with time. Complete across the middle. 1st down and more. And Dixon loses the ball. Recovered by Phoenix.
Here's what happens, JB. Up top, we're going to get a deep in route right there, and that all starts with good pass protection, and that's what he gets. Look at the pass protection. They've got him pinned on the line. Aikman sits in the pocket. Here comes that deep in route. Ball is thrown on a line with a strike. Got some room to work back there, but you got to put the ball away. See, he's holding the ball in one arm. The ball is stripped, turns it over, and the Cardinals are in business.
James Dixon, the rookie, loses it, and Jay Taylor recovers it for Phoenix. Farrell, straight ahead. 2-yard run to the 37. We'll call it 3. We'll bring up a 2nd and 7.
That's that counter tray action that almost everybody in the league has in their package. You pull the off, and when I say off, I mean the guard and tackle away from the point of attack. Pull them up in the hole. Back takes a counter step off the guard's block.
Ron Francis in for the Cowboys. Their nickel package. Hogaboom. The intended receiver, Vi Sikahima. Vi Sikahima's had to play an awful lot. As a matter of fact, he's not been complaining about that. Principally a return man, kick return, punt return. But he's been seeing a lot of action from the line of scrimmage because of the injuries in the backfield.
They are really thin in the backfield. They've been thin everywhere with the injuries they've had. Their offensive line's been beat up, defensive line beat up, and receivers.
Third and 7, dime defensive package in for the Cowboys. Novacek in motion. Complete to Sikahima, who slips at the 40. He's going to be shy. 5 yards of the 1st down. 2-yard pass play. So Camarillo will come on to punt for the 2nd time this afternoon for the Cardinals.
Nice job of the Cowboys dropping back in his zone coverage out of their nickel packages and forcing Hogaboom to take the little flat thing, not letting him throw the ball past the first down marker, coming up and making the play.
Derek Shepard back to receive for the Cowboys. Played with the Washington Redskins. Had some problems with the Saints, but Jimmy Johnson says he likes him. And Shepard, thinking the ball was going to head to the end zone, bad decision as it's down at the 7. 53-yard punt, 4.8 hang time. So Camarilla doing a nice job so far.
Well, turnabout fair play. You know, they pinned the Cardinals back. The Cardinals in turn kick one, pin Dallas back, and it's a game of field position, and that's where your punter can help you out an awful lot.
So Aikman will start 1st and 10 from his own 7. You know, you had a chance to talk with Jerry Rome, the quarterback's coach for the Cowboys, and he really had some positive things to say about their franchise player.
Yeah, he really likes Aikman. He likes the way that he carries himself. He has an air about him that is very, very confident. He's very popular with the teammates, and I think it's just a matter of time before he really shows off.
Out of the pro set. Shepard in motion. Palmer. Paul Palmer gets near the first down marker. Looks like he has enough yardage for the first down. A 10-yard run by Paul Palmer.
Watch these guards. Watch these guards get out here in front and pull and cut off of his block. Left guard pulls. There they go. Left guard right there, number 61 coming out of there. There's Paul Palmer right on his tail, following the blocking. Well-designed, well-executed play. Paul Palmer has come in and give them somewhat of a running game. Awfully important when you have a young quarterback as Aikman.
Thrilled to be a Cowboy. Says, yeah, we understand how poor things are right now, but this team has got some history, and I want to be a part of that. Back shift. Palmer. And Paul Palmer gets up near the 24-yard line, about a 6-yard gain. Will bring up a 2nd and 4. You know, believe it or not, Paul Palmer says, although he's small, he likes taking that hit.
He likes the physical end of it. He is really a good inside runner to be not as big as he is. He gets lost behind those big guards that tackle, squirts in there for the first downs and the short yardage gains, as he did just then.
Derek Shepard to the near side for the Cowboys. Flag on the play as Palmer has no room to run. Picks up maybe a yard, but there is a flag. Freddie Joe Nunn and Tim McDonald stopping Paul Palmer after a 1-yard gain. Tom Dooley, the referee. And that goes against Phoenix.
Offside, defense, first down.
You know, Snake, you and I have noticed the last couple of weeks that the referees have been very generic about their calls, not pointing out a specific player.
Yeah, they just call it on the color of the uniform, and I'm sure the players like that, too. Don't want to embarrass anybody in front of, what do we have, 40,000?
About that. No notoriety that way. 1st and 10 for the Cowboys. 7:02 remaining in the first quarter. 3 wideouts in for Dallas. Martin in motion. Play action. Complete. And for the first down, Steve Folsom. Tight end out of Utah, Anthony Bell on the stop.
They're going to break. Here's the guy right here that's going to wind up with the ball. They're going to do the play fake in the backfield. The tight end is going to release out in the flat off of a play pass action. There goes the motion. There's the play fake in the backfield. Here comes the tight end out in the flat area around the 35-yard line. Nobody around him. Nice throw by Aikman, 1st and 10.
Well, it looks like Troy's been doing an awful lot of watching film to get back out here sharp.
Coming back looks pretty smooth to have missed 5 weeks.
3 wide receiver set again. Palmer, the lone back. And Aikman gets it away. A 1-yard pass play as Aikman under tremendous pressure by Lonnie Young.
Well, right in this area right here is where the cornerback's going to come. Lonnie Young, the safety's going to come from. They come on a safety blitz. See him sneaking up there right there. Number 43 from his safety position. Lonnie Young coming on a safety blitz, making Aikman get rid of it early.
Lonnie Young made a little noise when he was returning from injury, saying he was ready to play, and Gene Stallings didn't have too much to argue with, saying, hey, he's the better player at that position.
You bet. I'm happy to have him back.
2nd and 9 for the Cowboys. Complete for the first down to the 40-yard line of the Phoenix Cardinals. Kelvin Martin, 3rd-year receiver out of Boston College. 14-yard pass play. And Snake's still early, but I guess you could call that an early report card on Troy Aikman.
The early report card is real good. The evidence of the way he's throwing the ball right now. And as we said earlier, JB, it all starts with pass protection. And that offensive line has been doing a good job this year for Walsh, and now they're doing a good job for Aikman.
First and 10 from the 40. Martin in motion. Palmer. Paul Palmer making something out of nothing. An 8-yard run down near the 30.
Well, from the end zone, it's that counter tray again. They're going to pull a guard. We're going to see the guard pull out of there. Guard's going to pull, come in there, cut off his. There's the pull. There's the back right there. There's the guard, cuts off of him, cuts right back in there. And that's what Paul Palmer gives you. It gives you that shiftiness that can cut back and do some things.
Brings up a 2nd and 2 for the Cowboys. Marching in Phoenix territory. Palmer has the first down. Run out of bounds to the 20. So it'll be 1st and 10 for the Cowboys from the 20 of Phoenix as Paul Palmer, who's been averaging 5.7 yards a carry, continuing his fine running.
Well, they're going to pitch the ball to Palmer, and then they're going to bring a flanker around on a reverse. He's going to get the pitch. There goes the motion man right there. Here's the pitch to Palmer. Now look from the right-hand side. There comes the receiver. They fake the reverse. Palmer keeps it. Misdirection, always good against a team with a set of linebackers that flow the way the Cardinals do.
8 rushes, 44 yards, that in the first quarter. 3:34 remaining, no score. Cowboys in scoring territory. And straight ahead goes Darrell Johnston. A 4-yard run will bring up a 2nd and 6. Just think, last time that Aikman did start, he had Herschel Walker in the backfield. Now he's got Paul Palmer. And you take a look at what Dallas has done inside the 20. Decent numbers, but I'm sure they like to have more touchdowns.
More touchdowns out of that. Scored on 10 of 13. Opportunity, 6 touchdowns, scores 4 field goals. You'd always like to have more when you get down there, but you're going to have that when you have a young team.
And the key to that graphic, they haven't been there much in scoring territory. Fewest in the NFL. 2nd and 6. Palmer. 2-yard run by Paul Palmer will bring up a 3rd and 4 for Dallas. This drive over 6 minutes, and again, Dallas has not been down here often, fewest in the NFL, as you just saw a few moments ago, and this would really be a confidence booster for the team and Aikman to get in the end zone.
I think you have to like the play of the offensive line. Tom Rafferty, the center, and Crawford Kerr, number 68, right guard. Newton, the left guard, 61. They're giving the pass protection needed, and they're also running the ball extremely well.
Junior Tutalatosi in on 3rd down. 3rd and 4. Play action. Going for Martin. In and out of the hands of Kelvin Martin. Well-designed play.
Well-designed play. They get the little play fake in the backfield, and what that's for is to hold the linebackers and give that receiver, Martin, time to get in, run his corner route back to the corner. Maybe if Aikman has time to hold the ball just a little bit longer. The ball is on top of the receiver before he can come out of his cut real good. Good try.
Luis Zendejas will attempt a 32-yard field goal back here in his home territory. And it's good. So Zendejas, who replaced Roger Ruzek, is good on his first field goal attempt, and Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys are ahead 3-0. Return tour of duty with the Dallas Cowboys puts the Cowpokes ahead 3-0. 1:52 remaining in the first. And Zendejas will be kicking off for Dallas, and Jimmy Johnson says he likes him because of that leg also in kickoffs.
You got a strong leg, and it's awfully important because it dictates field position. If you can kick that ball down in there where the returns can be held around the 20-yard line or inside if possible, it makes a big difference in what an offense can use coming out of there.
Mentioned about the field temperature usually being about 10 degrees hotter than the normal temperature here, and the Phoenix defense has been on the field a fair amount of time in the first quarter. We'll see what happens in the second half. Zendejas with a line drive, and Usher across the 20 to about the 23-yard line, runs head on into Manny Hendricks, and Gary Hogeboom will come on with 1:41 remaining to see if he can get something generated for the Phoenix Cardinals, and we'll see whether he's successful at that when we come back. Gene Stallings, a man who in the minds of many was the coach of the year the first half of the season, given the number of injuries to his team. His team is trailing the Dallas Cowboys 3-0.
I think it's a real tribute to him to have this team as focused and as fired up as they are after all those injuries. It'd be easy just to go in the tub after that, but not Gene Stallings. He still thinks that they can win the division.
The players said they have not folded the tent because of Gene Stallings. 1st and 10 from the 24. Hogeboom, play action. Complete to Awalt for the first down. And Awalt run out of bounds at midfield. So Awalt, the man who has been in a classy way expressing his frustration about not getting the ball, has it there.
And I think you have to put the ball in the guy's hands like that. Right here, tight end, right here, tight end. Coming across, he's going to release out here. Fake back there. Bootleg by Hogeboom. He's going to get outside. There's the fake. There's the bootleg to that side. Here comes the tight ends across. There's Awalt making the catch, and you have to get this guy involved. Terrific tight end. They're a passing offense, and you have to use your tight ends.
3 wide outs in for the Cardinals. 1st and 10, ball at midfield. And Farrell pulls his way ahead for 3 yards to the 47. Will bring up 2nd and 7.
And of course, that's something right there. Any type of running game with this team would help them out so much. Injured outside to Roy Green, J.T. Thomas, using 2 tight ends a lot. And what would help Hogeboom more than anything is not throwing the ball, would be a good, sound running game behind him.
Vai Sikahema comes in. Walter Reeves, the extra tight end, out. 2nd and 7. Hogeboom has to get rid of it quickly to Farrell. And Farrell runs for the first down to the 29-yard line. Run out of bounds by Robert Williams.
Well, it's a zone-type coverage. Watch all these linebackers run out of there. They're all going to run out of there, and that's what forces Hogeboom. There they go, right there. See, they're all backing out of there. Forces Hogeboom to look downfield, has nothing. There's the pressure coming from Jeff Coate. Makes him dump the ball off against that zone.
13-yard pickup, has the ball at the 33 of Dallas with 22 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Hogaboom, swing pass again. This one to Sikahema. Breaks the tackle. And Sikahema inside the 30 to about the 28-yard line. So a 5-yard pickup by Vi Sikahema. And that will end the first quarter with the score Dallas 3, Phoenix nothing. Quarter, Dallas looking impressive in 2 categories.
Yeah, good long sustained drive there, JB. It's 10 minutes to 4 as far as time of possession, and they had a nice sustained drive. I thought Aikman looked smooth. I thought the offensive line did a good job of giving Palmer some room to run, and a good job of giving Aikman time to get the ball off.
117 total yards in the first quarter by the Dallas Cowboys. The Cardinals now in threatening position. Ball at the 28 of Dallas. 2nd and 5. Ewald in motion. Out of the I formation. Sikahema tripped up in the backfield as he dives down near the 25. A pickup of 3 by Vi Sikahema. Dean Hamill grabbing the ankle. Dean Hamill, of course, the former Washington Redskins player. And I haven't researched the record books, but this certainly is one of the few trades, if any, involving the Redskins and the Cowboys.
Other than trading remarks.
3rd and 2. Hogaboom complete to Ewald for the first down to the 15-yard line. There is a flag on the play as Robert Ewald gets near the 15. So we'll await the call from Tom Dooley. And this will go against the Cardinals, so that'll bring it back. Rams leading the Giants 10-0 in the first quarter. And boy, the Rams would like to stop that slide of theirs.
Pass interference, number 80 offense, 3rd down.
Well, they called that on Robert Ewald, the guy who caught the ball pushing off with a strong safety, trying to get position in that hook zone for the reception.
You know, Dennis Thurman, the ex-Cowboy, who now is the defensive backs coach with the Cardinals, was telling us they were working with...
They'll take a look at the quarterback's eyes, and a lot of times a quarterback will look at one receiver all the way, and those safeties will jump on that. You can't look at just one receiver. You have to see the field.
Out of the shotgun, Hogaboom on 3rd and 12. And overthrows, and it's nearly intercepted. Vince Albritton. Well, a lot of action having taken place earlier. Let's check in New York with Brent Musburger. All right, Brent, thank you very much. And, of course, the Rams trying to stop a 4-game slide there, looking impressive.
Well, John Robinson's group, they started out like a house of fire, of course, this year, and they have in the past. They've always seemed to kind of have a really tough time during the middle of the season, but they're still a strong team. Get Everett on track, get their running game going.
In the punt, Rich Camarillo for the Cardinals. And he gets a high one. And the Cardinals special teams do a great job. 5-second hang time, the ball inside the 5. Worked the college game yesterday with Brent Musburger, pros today. I understand you ran an offense you're not really familiar with.
We went up to the Air Force Academy. We had Air Force and BYU. We went up to the Air Force Academy, and I ran the wishbone with D. Dowis. And if I had my druthers, I'm going right back to the pro set.
You like the pro set a lot
right
more,
back to the pro set.
All right, we've got some good pro action going on out here on the field between Phoenix and Dallas. Dallas leading it 3-0. And Rich Camarillo putting a good foot in action today. His 14th punt thus far in his career inside the 20. Palmer And Palmer with a 5-yard run up to the 10 will bring up a 2nd and 5. Left side of that line, Mark Tuaney and Nate Newton doing a good job of clearing the action. Shepard and Martin, the receivers, on 2nd and 5. Roderick Sargent in motion. Palmer, fake reverse. Phoenix didn't buy it. No gain on the play. Freddie Joe Nunn back in action, actually returned from his 30-day suspension against Dallas 2 weeks ago.
Probably the best pass rusher of that group up there. And when you have a team that's had problems getting a pass rush, you're happy to get a guy like that back.
And understandably, the problem that he experienced the most in his return a couple of weeks ago was fatigue. 3rd and 5. Cowboys with 3 wideouts. Aikman complete to the sidelines for the 1st down, and this time James Dixon holds on to the ball. A 9-yard pass play from Aikman to Dixon.
Good throw by Aikman. Throws a strike out on the outside, and that was against the nickel package. They bring in all their defensive backs. Doesn't mean you play man-to-man. It means you play zone backed up like that. Aikman backs up, sees the room that the right cornerback is giving out there. Number 41, Carl Carter, and just takes that out. Nice throw.
And Snake, one of the differences that the Dallas receiver said between Aikman and Walsh is the arm.
Much stronger arm, much stronger physically than Walsh, and throws the ball with much more velocity.
From its own 19, Dallas 1st and 10. 3 wideouts in. And Aikman has to get rid of it in a hurry as Freddie Joe Nunn breathing down his back. Amazing to see how Aikman really maintained his poise with the 6'4", 250-pound Nunn on his back.
Well, it's a little bootleg action. There he gives the hand fake, gives a fake to Palmer, getting down the right side, and they're trying to drag their tight end across. There's a tight end. They're trying to drag it across, but with the pressure on him, he's not able to get set and throw the ball in the proper place.
We'll bring up a 2nd and 10 for the Cowpokes. 12:07 remaining in the 1st half. Dallas on top, 3-0. And Aikman throws it complete to the 25-yard line of Paul Palmer. 6-yard pass play.
Well, they're getting in his face. They're trying to get pressure anywhere that they can. The pressure that hurts the most any quarterback is pressure that comes in the middle of the field, in the middle of the formation. Because there they come, right in the middle, right there. Number 58, Eric Hill coming in the middle. 55, Anthony Bell. That pressure in the middle does not allow the quarterback the possibility of stepping up in the pocket so he can't see anything.
And check that the reception was made by Junior Totalatasi, number 25, and I'm sure after that hit, he wants the credit for having caught that ball. 3rd and 4. Complete to Shepard for the 1st down at about the 43-yard line.
There's their 3 wide receivers right here. It's going to be Derek Shepard down on just a deep in route. In order to make that work the way that it should, you've got to have good pass protection because it's a deep cut. It's a 15, 17-yard cut. Aikman gets the protection he needs. There comes Shepard about the 40-yard line, throws a strike. Offensive line doing a good job for Aikman.
One of the few areas you're always talking about that are open against a zone defense.
In there between those linebackers, in those hook zones, in those passing lanes.
1st and 10 from the 44. Sargent. Roderick Sargent carries for a 4-yard gain. That'll bring up 2nd and 6.
I think you have to like the mixture that you see out there that's coming from David Shula, the offensive coordinator. I think you have to like the fact that they're running the ball inside. They've run a couple of pitches to try to get Palmer outside. They've bootlegged with their quarterback. They've thrown the ball to their outside receivers, and they've gotten their tight end involved. So good mixture on the Dallas Cowboys' part. Palmer.
Across midfield to about the 49.
That offensive line is really doing a good job. They're knocking him out of there, and they're running off those corners. They'll pull a guard and kick out with him. They'll lead with the fullback, and they've got good balance. They're not running only inside plays. They're running off both corners, sweeps. They run a couple of fake reverses, and so they're giving the Cardinals a lot of things to look at.
A 3rd and 3. Junior Tutalotasi, the lone back. Aikman going up top. Complete. Inside the 10-yard line. James Dixon.
I think what Aikman sees is that real tight coverage. Look how close the defensive back is playing on that wide receiver. That tells Aikman that he's getting a man-to-man coverage. Drops back. There's the man coverage that he sees. His receiver breaks by Jay Taylor, number 27, runs right by him, and Aikman throws it on the money.
Well, Aikman told us to look for that. They felt that those corners would be sitting there and they could prime him right. They did that time. And Dixon looking to make amends for dropping that one pass across the middle, holding on to this one. And the Cowboys call a timeout. Dallas down at the 10-yard line and threatening when we come back. Jimmy Johnson said he would in fact have to get more productivity out of the wide receivers in the early going. Looks like he's getting that.
And Troy Aikman hasn't worked with Kelvin Martin, 83, and Derek Shepard, 87. He really hasn't worked with those guys. They weren't the starting wide receivers when he was injured. So it's important for him to get back, work with those guys in all the different situations, short yardage, long yardage, and get comfortable with their moves and their timing.
Jimmy Johnson has seen his troops rack up 201 offensive yards, total yards, thus far. 1st and 10. Ball is marked at the 11. Junior Tutalotasi, the lone back. Incomplete as Troy Aikman was leveled by Ken Harvey, the right linebacker. Welcome back.
Well, here's where the pressure's going to come right there. Ken Harvey comes in there on a blitz, putting the pressure on. If he doesn't get this pressure on Aikman, Aikman's got something working with Palmer up on the wing and his tight end, but he does the right thing by getting rid of the ball, avoid the sack.
Sargent and Tutalotasi, the backs. Derek Shepard in motion. The hands of Steve Folsom. So Aikman with the strike. Dropped by Folsom.
Well, they haven't been getting the production that they would like out of their tight end. They have in the last couple of games, getting their tight end more and more involved. And in order to have a well-balanced offense, got to make that happen.
We'll bring up a 3rd and 6 for the Cowboys. Nickel defensive package in for the Cardinals. Aikman for Martin. Off the fingertips. The 2nd drop pass by Cowboys receiver in the end zone.
I don't think you can throw it any better, JB. I don't think you can throw it any better. Just a well-thrown ball by that young man right there. That ball is supposed to be right over the outside shoulder. Here he's going to come in at the bottom of the picture. There he comes right there, working on that tight coverage, and watch where he lays this. Right over the outside shoulder. Only one that can get to it is the receiver. Perfectly thrown ball. They got to help him out. They got to come up with that one.
Luis Zendejas with his second field goal attempt. This one a 29-yarder. And it's good. So Zendejas, second tour of duty, boots the Cowboys in front by 6. Boy. And the score could be even higher. 201 total yards by the Cowboys, 139 passing, 62 rush, and the Cowboys lead at 6-0. And you got to believe that one of the reasons the Cowboys are looking so effective right now, Snake, is this is their second time playing Phoenix, and a big second.
Second time playing Phoenix. Anytime you get a second look at a team, it gives you an opportunity to evaluate their personnel a second time, an opportunity to evaluate what worked good for you the first time you played and what didn't. It's just a good second look and make your adjustments.
The number 2 also is working well for Dallas in that this is the second tour of duty for kicker Luis Zendejas, and he's booted the Cowboys out in front 6-0.
Well, when a team has trouble getting down in scoring territory, and Dallas hasn't been down there as much as they would like, but when you get down there, you need to come away with points. Ruzick had trouble with that. Zendejas has given him a little more consistency.
Darrell Usher and Phil McConkey back to receive for the Cardinals. From the 4, Usher. And Usher tripped and falls forward to near the 28-yard line. So a 24-yard return by Darrell Usher, and Hogaboom will get the Cardinals going when we come back. In the first half here, Dallas Cowboys lead at 6-0. Tempe, Arizona. James Brown along with Ken Stabler.
Been all Dallas so far, huh, JB?
Indeed it has, and Dallas has been doing a nice job. And the defense, take a look, has not allowed a touchdown in 10 quarters. So the defense has been consistent.
Their defensive coordinator says they're starting to get some continuity, getting used to playing with each other.
Out of the I formation, Sikahema and Farrell, the backs. Play action. Hogaboom to Awalk, complete for the first down. Pushed out of bounds at the 46-yard line by Robert Williams.
Well, that's the reason you got to get that guy involved. When he starts hollering for the ball the way he's been hollering for the ball, he knows what to do with it when he gets it, and you got to put it in his hands. You got to see Robert Awalt right there. They're going to give a little play fake, little play action in the backfield to give him time to run that short out route. There's the play fake to Sikahema, 36. Pulls it out of there, gives Awalt time to run his little flat route out there. And as I said, when a guy wants the football, it has the ability of that guy right there, you got to find ways to put it in his hands.
2 tight end formation for the Cardinals, Awalt and Reeves. First and 10 from the 44 of Dallas. Awalt, the motion man. Farrell, ball carry. Met and driven back, no gain. During your day, you liked working with the 2 tight end set. Why?
Well, because we had 2 great ones for one reason. You know, we had Dave Casper, and of course, Dave Casper's one tight end, and Ray Chester was the other one. We got a lot out of that. You can use it very effectively in your passing game. Another thing that it does, it helps your running game an awful lot because you don't have an open side.
On second down to Farrell. Farrell loses the ball, but it's out of bounds. Driven out of bounds at the 37-yard line. So an 8-yard pickup will bring up a 3rd and about 3. And certainly one of the other reasons that the Cardinals are having to work with that 2 tight end formation is Tony Baker re-injured an ankle, so he's not in the backfield available to him.
Zone defense, everybody dropping off, giving a lot of room on the outside. It forces the quarterback to not throw the ball into all the coverage, all the DBs. You have to dump the ball off and run for what you can get.
Sikahema and Farrell, the backs. On 3rd down. Complete for the first down to Sikahema. Out of bounds at the 28. Pushed out of bounds by Robert Williams. Sekahima says, hey, play me anywhere, play me everywhere. This is the last year of my contract. I could use the work.
Just let me play. Let me have a jersey and do whatever I can. Great little special teams player. Has a real knack for returning kicks, kickoffs, and punt returns. Always been high in the league in return situations.
We told Vi yesterday that you were up in Provo, Utah, and he said, yeah, I think things are kind of quiet up there for a snake, huh?
Not much neon up there.
1st and 10 for the Cardinals. Ball at the 28 of Dallas. Phoenix trailing by 6. Sekahima ahead to the 25. A 3-yard gain will bring up a 2nd and 7.
Best drive of the game so far for the Cardinals, and they're starting to get some consistency to their offense, and I think play selection has an awful lot to do with that. Running the ball well inside with Errol Farrell, throwing the ball on the outside to Sekahima out of the backfield, working AWOL, their tight end, against those linebackers in the zone.
And Roy Green, who fractured a collarbone back on October the 8th against Washington, is in to the top of your screen. 2nd and 7, play action. Hogaboom tries to get back near the line of scrimmage. Dean Hamill on the tackle that time.
Well, they try to do some business with a play action pass off of that counter tray action, pulling guards, making linebackers think that it's going to be that counter tray that everybody runs, and then try to work your tight end. Good pressure by the Cowboy defense. This defense has been tough the last 3 or 4 games.
Speaking of defense, dime defensive package in for the Cowboys. Ron Francis and Manny Hendricks. 3rd and 8. Loss of a couple on the play. Hogaboom going up top, throwing in the direction of Roy Green. And the Boo Birds here in Tempe come out.
Well, we're going to take a look at it right here. Looks like if he keeps running, stays on his route, let me show you the guy right here, this guy right there. If he'll stay on his route, Roy Green, he's missed some games. He's really kind of tentative because of his injury. Really not sure. See him stop right there when he should turn it up and keep going. Roy Green, a little bit tentative because of that collarbone injury.
This will be a 44-yard field goal attempt by Al Del Greco. He's 4 of 6 on the year in this range. And this one is no good. So he's 14 of 17 on the year in field goals. And Phoenix not on the scoreboard, still trailing by 6.
They all put those big guys in there. There's Too Tall Jones, 6'8", 6'9". Get him in there, get some penetration, jump, try to get a hand up on the ball.
And our prayers certainly go out to Too Tall Jones and his family. His 73-year-old mother, Abby, suffered a heart attack on Friday back in Jackson, Tennessee, and we understand that she's in serious condition, and our prayers definitely with Too Tall Jones and his family.
What a great player he has been. He has hung on me a few times.
1st and 10 for the Cowboys at their own 27. Aikman, low pass intended for Junior Totalatasi. 5:51 remaining in the first half, and on the strength of 2 field goals by Luis Zendejas, the Cowboys enjoy a 6-0 lead.
Both teams playing very similar defenses, JB. They're sitting back in those zones, and they're going to make the opposing offense be real patient, go the length of the field without making a mistake. The only time the Cardinals got in a man-to-man type coverage, and Aikman burned them on a long play on the other side. So they can't afford to play a lot of man against Dallas, not the Cardinals.
Darrell Johnston and Paul Palmer, the backs, on 2nd down. Aikman back to pass, deep drop. Complete for the 1st down at about the 46-yard line. Kelvin Martin. A 19-yard pass play.
Well, here's one of the reasons that Jimmy Johnson likes Aikman over Walsh. Look at the zip that he puts on this ball. He's a strong kid. He's 210, 15 pounds. Now watch him throw this ball, I mean, just on a line at about 15, 20 yards. Right on the numbers. Good throw.
And Martin says when he comes
a
across
lot of myself.
Martin says when he comes across the middle, he likes those kind of passes. Quick.
Yeah, you keep them down, you get them up, they get tipped, and you also get some rib jobs done on your receivers.
Rib jobs.
Yeah.
1st and 10. Ball at the 46 of Dallas. Up to about the 47-yard line, 48, Paul Palmer. We'll call it a gain of 3 on the play.
Harvey has been a really good player for Gene Stallings. They used him last year and early this year, mostly in pass rushing situations. Best pass rusher of the linebacking group. This year, latter part of the season, they're now asking him to do a little bit more coverage work on the backs coming out of the backfield.
Paul Palmer, first half action, 12 carries for 54 yards. 2nd and 7. Palmer and Johnston, again the backs. Shepard in motion. Aikman is intercepted by Tim McDonald. Touchdown, Phoenix.
Well, Tim McDonald's just sitting back there, and he sees this all the way. There's Tim McDonald right there. The tight end is going to release in motion. See him make his move right away. He reads it all the way. Aikman never sees him, hangs the ball out there. Tim McDonald playing really well in Gene Stallings' secondary. There he is, puts him ahead. That guy really plays the run well, too. Comes up and run supports, good, tough tackler. That's his 5th interception this year. Doing extremely well this year.
And Al Del Greco boots the Cardinals out in front by 1. Well, Robert Awalt made no bones about it when he said that Tim McDonald absolutely has played well enough at this point to be an all-pro. And as you mentioned, his 5th interception this year, he's got 5 of the 10 interceptions that the team has.
They really don't have a lot of interceptions as a team, but he's playing well as an individual back there, and he is really a solid performer back there in that secondary. And of course, all interceptions is a team-type effort, and you have to have pressure on the quarterback and make him release the ball before he wants to, or throw one offline. That's the case right here. Watch the pressure that's put on Aikman. The worst kind that you can get is right in your face. There's Anthony Bell, 55, forced him to throw something and hang it up in the air. The result, interception.
3rd-year player, Gene Stallings certainly very pleased with him. And Tim McDonald, even in college, superb finalist as a senior for the Jim Thorpe Award. And, of course, that's presented to the top collegiate defensive back in the country. Right now, he's doing it at the pro level.
The crowd's back, JB. The crowd's back in the game.
Derek Shepard and James Dixon back for the Cowboys to receive this Al Del Greco kickoff, and it's a short one. And Shepard takes it at the 14. And dropped at about the 27-yard line. So a 13-yard return by Derek Shepard. Jesse Clark helping out on the tackle there. Babe Laufenberg with the headset on, well-traveled quarterback. 3rd on the depth chart, talking things over with Troy Aikman. Of course, Babe is getting the signals from up top.
The Babe. I think it's good to have a quarterback that has played some in that situation right there, understands offensive philosophies and what they're trying to accomplish, and relaying it on to a young quarterback.
So Dallas finds itself trailing by a point, 7-6, with 3:55 remaining in the first half. Shepard in motion. And this is Palmer. Palmer carries for 5 yards up to the 38. To make that the 33, giving him a bit more there.
A lot of different formations by the Dallas Cowboys, and The reason you give a team a lot of formations is so that they can't sit in one type of defense, get a fix on you being in the same formation all the time and ganging up on certain areas. Give them a lot of different looks, make them make their adjustments on the move.
2nd and 5 for Dallas. Ball marked at the 33. Out of the I formation. And Palmer looks to be no gain on the play as Phoenix, the defense, fired up. Rams holding on with that 10-0 lead over the Giants. Darrell Johnston out. Paul Palmer, the lone back, 3 wide receiver set on 3rd and 5. Palmer on the draw. Has the first down. Late flag as Palmer maneuvers his way down to the 40 of Phoenix, but there is a flag back at the 35-yard line. And that will push Dallas back, their first penalty of the afternoon. And of course, that coming off of a penalty-free and turnover-free.
64 offense, 3rd down.
Coming on the heels of a penalty-free and turnover-free game last week against Washington, the first ever in the team's history. That one called against Tom Rafferty, the 14-year veteran.
What a good veteran he's been, too. In the glory years of Dallas Cowboys, Roger Staubach underneath him when he was a center, and he has been an anchor for that offensive line for a long, long time. Good, tough center.
Hard-nosed player out of Penn State.
Pick another one, Timmy. Pick off another one.
So that will bring up a 3rd and 15. Jay Taylor and Michael Zordich in at DBs for the Cardinals, 6 DBs. And we have now wound down to the 2-minute warning. So Dallas, on the strength of that interception, trailing now 7-6. Opportunity at the steamroller known as the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame coming your way next Saturday here on CBS. That will be at 2:30 Eastern time. And Snake, the Nittany Lions ought to be a little ornery after that 13-13 tie yesterday with Maryland.
You bet. They were expected to win, and they got the big game, of course, with Notre Dame. A couple of Heisman candidates in there. Tony Rice, quarterback for Notre Dame, and Blair Thomas, the fine running back for the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Well, let me put you on the spot. A lot of talk about Heisman front runner at this point. A lot of people say, well, because Notre Dame is #1 and playing so well, although Tony Rice doesn't have stellar numbers, he's a quarterback of a #1 team. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it boils down to JB, to the guy that gets the most exposure. And if you look at Blair Thomas, he's going to get an awful lot with Penn State. So will Tony Rice. Andre Ware at Houston, I don't think he'll get the exposure that the other two will.
3rd and 15. Tosi and Johnson in at the backs for the Cowboys. Aikman out of the shotgun with time. Incomplete. Carl Carter doing a great job providing the coverage that time on James Dixon.
Well, here's a headache for any quarterback. Defensive back, defensive back, defensive back, defensive back, and there's another one back here. It's their nickel package. They're trying to do the same thing that they did in the first series of downs, is run that deep in route here at the bottom of your screen. See, there's that deep in route. A much better job this time on the coverage by Carl Carter, number 41.
Mike Saxon in to punt for the Cowboys. And Saxon barely gets it away. Fair caught at the 40-yard line by Vi Sekahima. So a glorious afternoon here in Tempe, Arizona. Temperature up around 86 degrees. Fans here at Sun Devil Stadium finally had something to cheer about as Tim McDonald returns an interception. Or Troy Aikman passed 53 yards for the score, and Dallas trails 7-6. James Brown along with Ken Stabler. And I tell you, Gene Stallings was talking about keeping these guys fired up and believing they can beat anybody. They've got to do this because this Dallas team is playing well.
Dallas is playing much better than they have in the past. They're starting to see people a second time around. Their defense has played together now for their 8 or 9 games and starting to get some continuity to it.
Hogeboom on first down. Broken up. Give the credit to Ron Francis. Intended receiver was Roy Green.
Roy Green really doesn't look like that he is running the way that Roy Green can run. You watch him make that cut right there and break away from the receiver. He usually separates extremely quick from a defensive back, and I think that guy right there is probably hurting a little bit right now and not up to speed.
It's that right collarbone that he broke back October the 8th, as I mentioned, against the Washington Redskins. And he mentioned to you down on the field that he's a little queasy about what that first hit will feel like.
Yes, that's why he's tentative. He doesn't know how he's going to react to that.
On second down, intended receiver Vai Sekahima.
A lot of substitutions today because of the weather. Talked to Jimmy Johnson down on the field right before the kickoff, and he was a little concerned with the weather. He said it's the first time that his team has been in this type of weather and going to do a lot of substituting, and something that you always do in the heat.
Dallas doing a great job with time of possession. And speaking of that heat,
what we got
those
here?
portable air conditioners there.
There we go. Portable air conditioners on the sidelines that blow the cool air. They've got some fans underneath those to circulate that cool air up and down the bench.
Bill Bates and Manny Hendricks, the extra DBs, in for Dallas. On third down for the Cardinals. And Hogeboom dropped. Cowboys didn't buy the fancy stuff. Tony Tolbert.
Well, there's a nickel package. Defensive back, defensive back, defensive back, defensive back. And they do a great job back there and give them a defense, give the sack to the defensive secondary, covering everybody so that the pressure comes.
Timeout, Dallas. So Phoenix will have to punt this one away. Rich Camarillo in to punt for the Cardinals. Derek Shepard back for the Cowboys. And Shepard knocked out of bounds by Garth Jacks. 52-yard punt, 10-yard return. And don't forget, coming up at halftime, Brent Musburger and Irv Cross will have all the scores, highlights, and the latest information from around the league. That'll be coming up at halftime back in New York. The NFL Today halftime report.
Dallas was doing real well the first part of the first half, and it seems like that the Cardinals now have made their defensive adjustments. They're getting a little bit more heat on Aikman and have stopped the run better also.
1:23 remaining in the first half. Phoenix on top 7-6. Aikman complete to Kelvin Martin, who slips one attempted tackle and dives to the 40-yard line, enough for the first down. 11-yard pickup on the play, and Dallas in their 2-minute offense.
You bet, coming with a hurry-up offense.
Aikman throwing toward the sidelines. Intended receiver was Bernard Ford.
With a situation like this, a quarterback thinking in the huddle here against this nickel-type package with a minute left in the game, you would expect all zone. Defenses don't want to play a man-to-man type situation here at the end of the first half because they don't want to get burned and give up the big play with only a minute left in the half. So expect zone if you're the quarterback.
2nd and 10. 4 wide receiver set for the Cowboys. Aikman with all kinds of time, throwing for James Dixon off of his hands, and Dixon probably feeling, although a number of receivers, or rather defenders around him, that he could have had that one.
Ball in the crowd right there. You have to be careful throwing the ball in the middle of the field against those prevent type defenses. When they bring in their nickel people, they play zone. They're always going to have a safety somewhere around the middle of the field, so be careful throwing the ball in the middle of the field.
52 seconds remaining in the first half. Cowboys faced with a 3rd and 10. Complete for the first down across the 40 to Derek Shepard. 21-yard pass play inside the 40, ball marked at the 39. So Dallas burns off yet another timeout.
Well, they got the big play they wanted that gives them an opportunity to get down in there and work. Your first thinking from the huddle as a quarterback is if you get your big play, your big completion, as he did right there, and you get the ball past the 40-yard line, now the first thing you start thinking is field goal. How far do I have to get down in there to get our team a field goal? Once you get in there, then the thinking is, now let's try to get the score, but let's don't turn the ball over, throw the interception, let's don't have a sack that will knock you out of field goal range. And that's kind of the thinking that goes into a quarterback's mind in the huddle in this particular situation.
Cowboys have to feel pretty good about Luis Zendejas, who is Arizona State University's all-time leading scorer and a strong leg indeed. And he's got a good leg from the 45 to 50-yard range up plus. And you saw there that Dallas did have one timeout remaining. They actually had burned off all three, so they have no timeouts remaining. 40 seconds remaining in the first half. Aikman overthrows the intended receiver over on that side of the field, Derek Shepard.
No problem if you're a quarterback. The good tight coverage by the cornerback over there. Do not force anything. If you're Aikman, that's the way you need to be thinking. Like I said earlier, don't force that. Don't throw that interception, because you're getting down in there where you may be able to come out of this with a field goal. So let's don't turn the ball over. Throw it away and start over on second down.
Second and 10 for the Cowboys. Ball at the 38.
Now they're lined up here like they're coming after him, JB. A lot of people up on the line of scrimmage. There they come. There they do.
And it looks to be incomplete. Dixon. No, we changed that. He did catch it. James Dixon with a great catch down near the 5-yard line.
Well, that's the gamble that you take when you go after the quarterback and you have to play man-to-man coverage, and he gets the man-to-man coverage. As a result, they beat Carl Carter, number 41. Ball is well thrown. Nice catch. Nice job by the receiver of going up and fighting for the ball. Now they're down in there in business.
No mistake about that one at all. 29 seconds remaining. First and goal for the Cowboys. Ball at the 5. Touchdown, Dallas. Kelvin Martin.
Well, Kelvin Martin just does a good job of finding an area down in there. He's going to be coming from right on the right-hand part of your screen, right in here. There he is right there. It's just a good job of finding those areas in there. You really don't have an awful lot of room to work down there because you're so close.
And Luis Zendejas' point after is good, so Dallas regains the lead by a score of 13-7 over the Phoenix Cardinals. And boy, how much more effective a coaching staff can prepare, having seen the opponents at least once.
Exactly. We brought that out at the top of the program, that their first win came against the Washington Redskins, a team that they had seen now 2 times. The first team that they've prepared for twice, they come away with a win. Second time that they've prepared for the Phoenix Cardinals, and they're going well today.
Kelvin Martin said, growing up as a youngster in high school, the man he most admired was Anthony Carter, great wide receiver with the Vikings.
Big play man for the Vikings. Anthony Carter does it year in and year out, coming up with the big plays.
7 plays, 71 yards, under a minute. Troy Aikman, 5-yard strike to Kelvin Martin.
Nice execution that series. Troy Aikman using the hurry-up offense. And I think that's something that you really like to see out of a young quarterback who has the poise to stand back there, to understand the time on the clock, understand what they're trying to do to you, and take them down the field.
Luis Zendejas kicking off for the Cowboys. A low liner. This one goes to McConkey from the 5. And McConkey dropped at the 25. So about a 20-yard return by Phil McConkey, and Gary Hogeboom will have only 19 seconds remaining in the first half.
I think there's 2 things you can do right here, JB. One of them would be just to run the ball, kneel down on the ball, not take the chance of turning the ball over and going into half. The other thing to do would just be to try to make a big play, run a crossing route, something where a receiver catches the ball on the run, where he could break a tackle for a big play, or either throw the ball down the field on a Hail Mary type thing. I think that's really the only options they have.
Ewald in motion. Barrow.
Well, they're going to just run it out. The crowd's not real happy with it, but I think that's correct.
And there's a flag on the play, and as you said, the fans may not like it, but a safe play, huh?
Sure, I don't think you want to try to do anything down there, throw the ball and get a turnover. Just go in at the halftime and make your adjustments.
And holding against Phoenix.
Holding 80 offense. First down.
Boy, Gene Stallings has known an awful lot of adversity. That penalty call against Robert Ewald. He said he indeed has learned under the best. Bear Bryant, a man for whom both of you played for. He coached under, and Tom Landry.
Gene Stallings probably reminds me of Coach Bryant as much as anyone. He got that deep talk, carries himself, handles himself, coaches like Coach Bryant.
Farrell.
Well, the crowd's not real happy with that, but they have to understand that, you know, this team is playing well. They've got injuries everywhere, and you're playing well against the Dallas Cowboy team. The last thing that you want in that situation right there is a turnover down in there that gives them an opportunity to widen their lead.
No need to give Dallas any more of an emotional boost, and indeed it has been a very good first half with Dallas. The score could be a lot higher. A couple of drop passes of Aikman's in the end zone by a couple of Dallas receivers, and the score could be a lot higher.
It really could. You know, they got down in there and they had to settle for a couple of field goals by Zendejas, and when you get down in there, you need to come away with touchdowns. They had to settle for field goals, but as a whole, I think Dallas has played really well. I think they are getting better. You watch Aikman play, and today he looks like he's playing smooth and confident, not like he's coming back from a 5-week layoff. He looks sharp.
And Jimmy Johnson will take it. His Cowboys lead it at the half, 13-7.